Interpersonal Communications Project by Carmen Harris. Stewart says that there is a direct link between the quality of our communication and the quality of our lives. We can have an awareness of the quality of our current level of communication as well as what is possible for us in communication. Slide 2 shows an overview of this project. It will review what I have learned in this class. The goal is improving communication. It will show my personality blend and how I communicate. It will identify barriers to effective communication as well as solutions to overcome weak areas in my communication and an action plan to make personal goals a reality. Next slide, we see the definition of communication. It is a collaborative effort whereby involved parties make meaning together. It's done by the transfer of information, which is verbal as well as nonverbal. Communication is never done alone. It reveals the personal beliefs and values of the involved parties. It's always affected by the culture that we are in. It not only involves, but it creates the identities that we have in relationships. It involves talking as well as listening. It's a give and take process. So the next slide, we can see if our communication is impersonal or if it is interpersonal. Interpersonal communication happens when we make communication personal. Each person is unique and brings a uniqueness to the conversation. Emotions and feelings that are involved can't be measured. It's not reactive, but responsive. We choose how to respond. We are aware, we examine, and we speculate on the meaning of communication, and it's always use of language. Next slide shows our goals. Improved interpersonal communication is the goal, and it's done by learning and practicing useful skills to learn to listen to others, as well as how to be heard and how to be understood. So next slide, we see step 1. We discover our own personality blend, personal relational style, and our personality patterns. My blend is passive as well as active. It's outgoing as well as reserved, and it's interactive as well as withdrawing. It's a unique blend. Strengths, I am friendly, likable, and according to the survey, charming. I inspire and encourage others. I'm a natural leader. I communicate well. I'm intuitive, and I'm able to read others and know what it is that they need. But I can be critical. I need to know to balance love with truth. Absolutely need to know how to control emotions and not talk too much. I can be seen because of my enthusiasm as self-centered or shallow, and I can stand out too much and be disliked or cause jealousy. Next slide shows other types. The D types are active and task-oriented, and for my part, I just need to summarize the points for them and let them get on with their business. The influencers, are active and people-oriented, and since they are the same type as myself, they can see me as competition. S are passive and people-oriented, and they can find my energy tiring. They can only take me in short doses. C are passive and task-oriented, and they need logical explanations from me, not energy and excitement. And it helps me to know how to interact with others the most effectively by knowing their different personality styles, and it also gives me insight into how other personality types can relate to me and my unique personality. We see on the next slide identities. Identity is a combination of traits and features in an individual. They are constructed within relationships. There are dimensions of identities that are static, that are unchanging, such as ethnicity, gender, religious orientation, things like that. And then there are dimensions that are changing, and they change according to relationships, actions, and events in their lives. Others ascribe identity to us, and we avow identity to ourselves. Next slide shows personal development, the personal development of communication, the patterns that are developed over our lifespan. They're developed by our childhood experiences that will determine how we relate to others. They are developed in the relationships that we have had modeled for us, and the examples that we've had of communication and of relationships, and the education that we receive provides us with professional and interpersonal communication training. Next slide, we see listening. Listening is determined by several brain filters that we have inside of our heads. The memories that we have, the values that we hold, the beliefs that we have established over time, the assumptions that we have, the expectations and what we expect in a given situation, the experiences that we've had in the past, the attitude that we have at any particular time, and the prejudices that we all hold. We can know, if we know and identify these filters, we can adjust them so that we can better communicate. We need to be very aware of areas that we don't see, or areas that in fact we choose not to see. Next, we'll look at listening. Listening levels. Level 3 is we kind of fade in and out. We pay attention to ourselves. It's very passive. It's a fake kind of attention. Level 2 listening is where we're hearing the words, but we're not really listening because we're not understanding what is being said, and we're very emotionally detached. Level 1 listening is empathetic listening. We put ourselves into the other person's shoes. We see things from their perspective. We acknowledge that what they have to say is important. Our goal is level 1 listening. So it's a self-evaluation on our part. I ask myself the question, how well do I listen? So on the next slide, we see the areas that I have found for improvement. I can't assume that I know what someone is saying. I need to listen and understand from their perspective. I can reflect back what they are saying to keep from misunderstandings. I can ask for clarity and for word definitions. I can hear verbal as well as nonverbal meaning. I can consider the emotions, the values, the beliefs that a person has, and their perspective, and not mine, and not jump to snap conclusions and assume that I just know what they're saying, the meaning of what they're saying. The next slide, we have barriers. There are barriers to effective listening. We hear what we expect to hear. We tune out what we don't want to hear or what we don't want to believe. Our point of view will determine what we hear. We sometimes only hear what is interesting to us. We will tune out things that are against our beliefs and value system. Our opinions will determine how we hear the message. Our experiences will distort what we hear. We can ascribe our own meaning to the message. The next slide, we'll look at our self-listening, our internal dialogue, identifying non-productive thought patterns that we have, the personal beliefs, values, attitudes that can be harmful, and our negative thought patterns and processes. The habits that we've developed, the thinking patterns that we have developed over time, we can become aware of this problem thought thinking and reshape our thought processes. We can stop that negative thinking and break bad habits. Next slide, we see listening responses. We can keep an open mind and remain non-judgmental. We can ask how, what, when for clarity. We can restate basic ideas and facts for accuracy. We can listen with our emotions, listen empathetically to those feelings. We can summarize and reflect a message back to know that we have understood and express acknowledgement of that message. Next, we move on to being heard. How we listen to others will influence how they listen to us. We can be aware of things that will stop people from listening to us, those turnoffs. We can encourage listening of others with nonverbals like eye contact and nodding to encourage them to remain engaged in what we are saying. A positive attitude will motivate people to listen to us. We can develop strategies to be heard. We can know about the listener. We can gain their attention by speaking clearly and aiding in their understanding and retention of the message that we are intending to communicate. So finally, we have a summary. The goal is effective interpersonal communication, and it is to improve our relationships, both personal and professional. The skills that we learn are learned to improve the weaknesses that we have, as well as to add to our personal strengths. New tools and concepts, we will put those into practice in our communication, and the result will be increased effectiveness in interpersonal communication. Thank you.